Good afternoon, I'm Sara with Massey.
And I'm Caitlin Carr. Today we'll be explaining the parts of the cell and be going into detail on how they function and what their evolution looks like.
This topic relates back to our course because we discussed cell structure and function in preparation for exam 2.
Look at the people around you. Did you know that each and every one of them contains 75 to 100 trillion cells in their bodies just like you do?
On top of that, did you know that there are 13 trillion cells in a dog's body alone?
Obviously, cells are vital components in the makings of all living organisms. Since they are the fundamental building blocks of life, it is important for us to understand them and how they are essential for all living organisms. Whether they're unicellular or multicellular, carnivores or herbivores, everything living requires cells to normally and efficiently function.
Today we'll be giving an explanation on the parts of the cell and be going into detail on how each part of the cell goes through its specific task and what their evolution looks like. We'll also be showing how they work together in cohesion to maintain our bodily functions.
We're going to break this down into two main concepts, prokaryotes versus eukaryotes, as well as animal cells versus plant cells. Now, you may already know a little bit about cells from your high school biology class, but today we're going to go into more detail so that you will know and understand the concept like the back of your hand.
Let's start off with talking about one of the two main types of cells, prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are defined as simple, mostly single-celled organisms that lack a nucleus. Since there is such a large number of prokaryotes, they are classified into two domains, domain archaea and domain bacteria. Domain archaea are cells mostly found in extreme environments, like molten lava, hot springs, or even animal intestines. These cells live in places that would most likely be deadly to other organisms. We can find domain bacteria nearly everywhere. Scientists estimate that there are billions of bacteria living on your skin, most of which are harmless. Prokaryotes are shaped like medicine capsules. They have their genetic form in a single continuous strands. While prokaryotes are very small, they have several key components that are essential in understanding how these cells work. The nucleoid is the space in the middle where the cell's genetic material is housed. Next, we have the flagella. This looks like a long tail coming off the end and is responsible for the motion of the cell. The last main feature of a prokaryotic cell is a membrane. Membranes are responsible for attaching to host cells. Prokaryotes also have cell walls, ribosomes, cytoplasm, and a plasma membrane, which will be mentioned a little later.
Okay. Eukaryotic cells is the other main type of cell. This is what we as humans are, as well as plants, fungi, and protists. Eukaryotes are defined as cells that contain a membrane-bound nucleus and numerous membrane-bound organelles. Now let's talk about the parts of a eukaryotic cell, starting with what can be considered the most important feature, the nucleus. This is basically the brain of the cell, and it performs several vital functions. While it houses the cell's DNA, it also directs synthesis of both ribosomes and proteins. The nucleus itself includes several structures within its membrane, including chromatin, the nucleolus, and chromosomes. These organelles are only visible when the cell is dividing. Chromatin is the unwound form of DNA which contains histone proteins. The nucleolus is the site of the rRNA synthesis. The double membrane structure known as the mitochondria, commonly referred to as the powerhouse of the cell, produces ATP, which is the usable form of energy for the cell. Vesicles and vacuoles are very similar but are slightly different in size. They are both made of a phospholipid bilayer and have the function of aiding in transport and storage, although vesicles are slightly smaller than vacuoles.
The cytoplasm in eukaryotic cells is made up to 70 to 80% water and also contains other substances, including proteins and simple sugars. It is the site where protein synthesis takes place. Peroxisomes are important metabolic components, seeing that they break down fatty acids using a variety of enzymes, alternating hydrogen peroxide, which is a harmful byproduct of the cell, changing it instead into water and oxygen, which the cell can eventually use. Centrosomes are also present in eukaryotic cells. They are used to organize the center found near the nucleus of these animal cells. A key factor involved in waste removal and digestion of the cell is lysosomes. Lysosomes are organelles that contain digestive enzymes used to digest or excess or worn out organelles, food particles, and engulf viruses and bacteria. These are basically the garbage disposal or stomach of the cell. So now what, Caitlin?
How about you tell the audience about the differences between animals and plant cells?
All right, let's do it. While animal cells have several structures that plant cells lack, including centrosomes and lysosomes, plant cells also have structures that are not present in animal cells. The cell walls are made of cellulose, which act as a protective, semi-permeable outer layer. These giving the cell strength and structure, as well as filtering molecules that pass in and out of the cell. They also contain chloroplasts, which are used for photosynthesis processing. Although it may seem as if plants would only have chloroplasts, they also have mitochondria as well. On top of that, rather than having numerous small vacuoles, plant cells have large vacuoles, which are used for storage of water, pigments, sugar, and poisons to fend off herbivores. When you think about the main difference between plant and animal cells, a lot of it is due to the difference in how they obtain their energy. Plant cells have to go through the process of converting sunlight into usable food and ATP, hence the presence of the mitochondria and chloroplast. While animals simply eat plants and other animals that eat plants, also processing this into ATP. Another main difference is the separation of plant and animal cells. Considering that plant cells have cell walls that are much more rigid than that of animal cells, they cannot simply begin to split apart, and a cleavage furrow must appear as it does in animal cells. Instead, a cell plate begins to form in plant cells as they start to split apart because the Golgi vesicles create proteins that are formed in this barrier. I think that about wraps it up, don't you?
I agree. If they don't know anything about cells now before this, then they definitely do now. But let's go through it one last time in case there was anything that they missed.
All right. So we established that cells are very important and key essentials of any and all living organisms, comparing not only animal and plant cells, but also prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells.
That's right. The main points you guys need to remember is that prokaryotes are the more simple, mostly single-celled organisms, while eukaryotes are the more complex organisms, including you and me. While eukaryotes contain many membrane-bound organelles, prokaryotes are not made up as quite as many.
And the main difference between plant and animal cells that needs to be remembered includes the fact that plant cells contain cell walls, which keep the cell in its rigid structure, as well as chloroplasts, which are the main structure in the cell that aid photosynthesis. Although animal cells do not have these, they have lysosomes and centrosomes, which plant cells lack. Animal cells also have numerous small vacuoles, while plant cells have one large central vacuole.
Thank you. If you want to delve deeper into the cells and the processes, there are several other concepts that relate with cells and cell functions, which can all be found in Top Hat or through notes you've taken in class.
Yes, but we hope this video was helpful to you and you can walk away from this with a deeper knowledge of cells. Thanks for listening.
Listening. We are